Being in Detroit is, I think, great for us. But competition, I know a little bit about Bucknell. I've seen Syracuse and Arizona State play a lot. It's two pretty good teams at one point in the year, so I don't think any bracket's easier than the other one. I didn't really get a chance to look at all of them, but I'm excited to be playing in our state. And I really didn't know where we'd be. I didn't have any clue on where we would be seated. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Didn't matter to me. To play anybody, any place, anytime theory still holds true. But it's nice to have a short ride. And I think the Friday will be good for us only because last week was so, with no school and everything, discombobulated in a way. That I think now we'll get back. We got school, we got practice, we got school, we got practice. I think we'll get into a routine, and I think it'll be good for us.
Tom, you love Detroit. You've talked about at the beginning of the year you'd like to get there. I think your mindset was as a one, but who cares you're there? What was your emotion when you saw it come across the screen?
I was a little surprised. I didn't think we would end up there at the very end. You know, it just seemed like the way things were going, and I didn't follow the brackets like I normally would, where I just said there was so much noise out there about where everybody was going and what was going to happen. I was a little surprised some teams didn't get in. But I wasn't surprised that where they put us. I wasn't surprised where we could be seated. I was excited that we're in Detroit, but other than that, everything else was just normal, great.
Tom, after this long stretch of days off, I guess, now having an opponent, how critical is that to now have that short ride with all the prep that you need?
Well, I think, you know, the one part about last week, it was so strange. I mean, I don't know how many other teams had it, but there weren't many because Michigan, I think their spring break was the week before. I think Purdue's is next week, and I didn't know about Ohio State's. But when you look at it, of the Big Ten teams, everybody else got a chance to play last week, but us for just about everybody else. So even when Gonzaga says that, you know, that they kind of like it, but they played, what, Tuesday or Wednesday? Is that when their championship game was? So that cuts it in half, and that's probably pretty good. Have a few days, extra days, but not too many. You know, I guess I still am worried about it. I mean, it'll be almost 2 weeks off. But at the same time, I think getting into a normal regiment this week is going to help us. Did a little scrimmaging last week. We'll probably take one of the days this week and bring in officials again. And I think our kids will be motivated to play in Detroit too. Not that you need any motivation this time of year, but I know for some of them it's going to be special.
I'm wondering if there's any specific focus, further practices, anything you focused in on more and what you felt like you got out of them?
Well, what we really tried to focus is guarding ball screens. I thought we did a poor job in the last game against that, and so we really worked on that, worked on our weak side. But I'd say if there's one thing, we'll be good defensively. I really believe that. It's offensively getting more movement that we really spent some time on. I think, you know, if you look at our team early in the year, we were getting 25 field goals and 20 assists, or, you know, 22. I think once it was like 24-22 or something. It was ridiculous. And I think that, you know, the ball isn't moving as well now. I don't think it's anybody's fault. I don't think it's through selfishness. I think it just, maybe we're not realizing that it's got to move as well as it does have to move, and so that's what we really put some emphasis on.
Tom, I know you, obviously when you go into tournament setting, the focus is on the weekend and getting out of there. But I think at some point earlier you said you'd love another shot at Duke. Did you allow yourself a chance to look and see that if you got out of that weekend, that
it's about that much, you know. Because, you know, I'm surprised that there's a play-in game. I really didn't understand that with Arizona State, who at one time, were they ranked 1 at one time? Matt says no, but at 2, they were ranked 2. Rico's better than the Dookie. No, you said top 5. Anyway, they were ranked 2, and Syracuse is, you know, they're always a funny team and always very competitive and give you a completely different look. So yeah, that's a concerning second round game, but Bucknell, as most of you know, has beaten some teams too in the past. So after what we went through a couple of years ago, our job will be to prepare for the weekend on Monday and Tuesday, and then our job will be Wednesday and Thursday, prepare for Bucknell, and we'll really home in on them and definitely not take anybody for granted.
Tom, Jaron Jackson, can you speak to how unique of a player he is in terms of his skill set?
Hopefully he has better hands than you.
Yeah,
but,
I'm better rater than
you know
athlete.
what?
But also, Tom, like, he's a unique person too. I mean, he
Yeah.
had a different upbringing, got into some unique things. I mean, just speak to him on and off the court being unique.
You know, he is very unique. As you say, he's first of all, he's extremely long, you know, with that 7'4" reach. The second thing is he's a very intelligent kid. Not that that's unique, but he's a very, very intelligent kid. He's a kid that wants to get better, you know, and he's got that freakish ability to block shots, which you say just because he's long, there's a lot of tall guys that don't block shots. And then you add all those things in and say he can shoot a three and he can handle the ball. And he is a good defender. He's got to get better on the perimeter. You know, we're putting him in tough positions sometimes. But I think this kid has a chance to be one of the more special players that ever played here, just because he's got so many different intangibles along with God-given measurables, and that's what makes him so very unique. Plus, most big guys don't have the effervescent personality. Jaron does. He's kind of like, you know, if you had a prototype, this is what I'd like out of a power forward. I wouldn't give you the measurables or the abilities. I'd just put Jaron Jackson, and I mean that.
Along those same lines, this is why Miles came back for this last one. What have the last 2 weeks been like with him? And I guess looking ahead, what do you want to see from him in the next couple weeks?
Well, you know, I think somebody said it best today. I think it was Matt Staging when he talked about him being the MVP, you know, and I mean, I understand that a lot of people just assume when you come back, you know, he's averaging 17, 7, and 3. What he's done an unbelievable job of is being a better passer and a little better with the ball. He talked about 5 or 6 game stretch where he had 20-some assists and 5 turnovers. So that, I'd like to see him still be a little more selfish, you know, I really would. And but with the type of team we have and the players we have on it, I think we've figured out a couple different ways he can be more selfish. And some is in the post, some is what he does with the ball when he's driving. We got to realize in winning time, it can't be a fadeaway 3. It's got to be a shot that you can get fouled at. I think he has I think the last 2 weeks he's really looked at a lot of film and seen it differently, where I think he knows he can muscle some people like he did at the end of the Michigan game. He can still shoot a 3 and remain a very good passer, but maybe with all of them, we're waiting for ball screens and that. I'd like to see more catch and go, more an aggressive approach every time he or Josh catches the ball.
Thomas is uncharted territory with the week off. The rust factor, how do you guard against that? I went to Chicago. How much does that concern you?
Well, it does, just because I've never done it, you know, and I haven't talked to many guys that have done it, you know, and the ones that have done it at a lot lower levels. So it's a concern, you know. I'm going to talk to Mark Few a little bit, but as I said, most of the time when they did it, they didn't have a full 2 weeks off. They might have had 7, 8 days. So it's a concern, but, you know, I look at what this team has gone through this year. You know, who cares? I mean, I'm not going to be any different than any other coach, probably. If you win, the 2 weeks off did you well. If you lose, they caused you to lose. I'll say it now ahead of time. Nothing's going to cause us to lose but us. We did have the 2. I was worried a little bit of getting sent out west on a Thursday game, because I think we need to get back into a routine. You know, we took a day off, a day and a half off. We did individual work. We had a decent practice Friday. We had a very good one Saturday. We kind of had to take today off with everything. I think it's going to be good to get into a routine, and I think the Friday, no matter where it was at, would be better, even though that's one more day since when we played. I think the routine, there'll be no excuses about what we did and anything like that. We have a chance to practice. We have a chance to, we know our team, even though we're a little young, we understand what we got to do. And so I'm not making a big deal about it, Fred. It was confusing last week. I can't lie to you. You know, should we give them today off? Should we have a individual work? Should we, you know, when you have all day, if they don't do anything, they're just sitting there. And that would have been brutal. So just a little trip to Chicago, if nothing else, did something for our camaraderie, you know. They got to spend time just together. Not a lot of distractions around them. It was probably good for them.
Take two more, Bob and Kate.
Tom, even though you went 29-4, you almost felt compelled to defend your team because people were down on it the way the last couple of games went. From the last the 2 games of the Big Ten tournament to now, do you feel like you see signs of them getting, if anything was shaking, that they're getting it back?
You know, the only thing we did wrong in the last 2 games is, you know, Cash struggled a little bit from the 3, and he's been, hell, he went about 10 games in a row where I think he still is or was the leader in 3-point field goal percentage in the NCAA, so not the Big Ten. So he shot well all year. I think, you know, we looked at a couple things that we felt we did wrong in both games. And the Wisconsin game, I mean, I think the problem that we've had is expectations are high and deservingly should be. But they were at Duke and at Carolina, and at, you know, Carolina lost 10 games. Villanova lost a couple games. I think they were, you know, they were real high at Purdue. They lost 4 of their last 9, you know. Wherever, it's probably the same thing there as it is here. We've just had a few added distractions that have probably, I'll never be able to weigh what those did or have done to this team. And that isn't hide behind, that's the flat out truth. And but I think, Bob, that we looked at our shooting. We got to get, you know, we've spent a little more time on that. We looked at our offense. We got to do a little better job on that. And the ball screens, I mean, hell, first half Michigan shot 31%. Wisconsin did not shoot a very good percentage. So I thought it was a little more our offense than our defense.
Tom, I guess, to make the tournament now 21 times straight in your 23 years here, that's, you know, when you look back at that, you got to kind of think to yourself, that's pretty impressive, right?
Right now, can't say that I used the word impressive very much this last 6 weeks, but I'm sure my day will come when I do, because it is a heck of a feat, and what it is, it's consistency. And that was my ultimate goal the day I got this job. Can we make this a consistent winner? And I used to think of that word all the time early on in my career. I think it was when you guys, meaning the media, you know, felt really good about us after year 6 when we went to the 3 Final Fours, and it looked like we had consistency. And I said then, come back 10 years later, and let's see how we are. And 10 years later, we were really good. And we went to another 2 Final Fours in a row in 9 and 10. And so I don't think I have to say come back 10 years later. I think we've established that we're pretty consistent, but now it's at another level too. Now the consistency of success isn't just getting in the tournament anymore. It's making deep runs in the tournament. It's getting the Final Fours, and it's winning national championships. And I don't blame people for, you know, I get frustrated when they don't think we're ever supposed to have a down game or another team's going to get up for you, or not understanding that all that's been thrown at these guys, I don't know how they did what they did at times, if you want the truth. But at the same time, realizing that we're young but talented, and most of these teams that have been young and talented have gone up and down a little bit. And is this our time to get better? I said I didn't think we've reached our ceiling at all, and I said sometimes you never reach your ceiling. I think, you know, winning 13 in a row or whatever we did, and then losing a game and losing to your rival, I think that said something to a few of those guys, and maybe I won't say they were getting fat and sassy because I never saw that, but maybe casual on the things that are important, you know. Is the ball screens important again? Is the passing important again? Is making shots important? What we've done, I think, makes you somewhat tournament ready. We've still been very, very good defensively. And unlike most of my teams, we've been very, very good at the free throw line. Okay? You add that, which we have improved on the turnovers. And so I think those three areas are going to be critical.
Sean?
We've talked a lot about the break and what it did for your team. I'm curious about for you. Did you need a break? Did you need to reboot? And does this feel like a different opportunity for you?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say a little bit. You know, it was, I mean, nothing's over. It's not going to be over. For me either. But it was a 6 weeks of a lot of nights when you spend a lot of time going over a lot of things. So I'd say getting away for 2 days was good for me. I think maybe when he asked earlier, and there's truth to it, appreciating these guys. I mean, of all the teams I've had, and I've had a lot of great teams, but when I say player, in other words, talent as a basketball player, talent in the classroom, and talent as an individual, I'm not sure that anybody in this room that follows us would disagree. It's one of the greatest groups ever, and it gave me a chance to appreciate that and then talk to them about it, you know, that my job now is to push you harder. We're not going to, you know, I said before the Big Ten tournament, we're going to stick to basketball. I'm not sure I did a great job of that the whole time either, and so maybe, but I'm not looking at anything that anything's over. I'm just looking at it as I got to do a better job of handling some of those things.
Last one, Larry.
Tom, can you go back down memory lane, the games at the Palace, the Final Four in Detroit before you lock in on this next opportunity? What flashes in your memory bank as you think about those two weekends?
Fun. That's what flashes in my mind. They were, you know, we didn't play great then either. You know, we all forget about we were 14 down to I think it was Syracuse, and 17 or 15 down to Iowa State, and yet, you know, we never ever talk about that, you know. But if we have a 5-point win, we're struggling. So it just makes me realize that number one, in those cases, and I think sometimes you earn the right to be there. There's no doubt if we weren't in the Palace, I'm not sure it would have been the same outcome. But God, Duke and Carolina have done that for year after year after year after year after year, you know. And so I'm not feeling sorry for us or sorry for them, but it is so cool when your fans, when your state kind of embraces you. At least for me it is. And I think there'll be a lot of happy Spartans that get to go to the game without spending a tremendous amount of money. And unfortunately, they don't win the game for you. But I think if you're a home court crowd, it helps you get a better chance to win it. If we don't play well, we're not winning at that structure. You're going to find out that Bucknell is really good. And somebody said it today, you know, when you're anywhere but the 16 seed, it seems like you're a pretty good basketball team.
All right. Thanks.